Welcome back everyone, it's RacerX, and today I wanted to put together a video for you guys about my Demon 170 and a question I've been getting an awful lot lately. Do I regret buying this car? Is it the biggest mistake I've ever made on the channel? Should I have just kept my twin turbo Mustang? A lot of people think I shouldn't have sold my 1,000+ horsepower Hellcat that I had a little while back, those of you that have been following my channel for a while. So today's topic is all about the Demon 170. Do I regret buying it? Obviously, for those of you guys that don't know, my car is down right now. There's no Demon in the garage right here, as you can see. I've been without the car for like 3 or 4 weeks already. I took the car to a private event in Bradenton, and the car was not acting right. So I've talked about that at length. And recently, just a couple of days ago, we found out that my engine is trashed. We looked in the oil, and there was all sorts of metal in the oil. I mean, it was just golden color, just completely eating itself. So now we've got to get the engine out of the Demon 170, send it up to Dodge so the engineers can look at it, and we have to source a brand new engine for the car. Who knows when I'm going to get this car back? So today's topic, do I regret buying this car? Was it a huge mistake? We will talk about it. If you guys are brand new to the channel, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. You can find that right over here. And off we go.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Check it out, I am at the Dream Giveaway Garage, and right behind me is their newest giveaway. They just announced this. This is a 1970 Dodge Challenger 440 6-pack, actually formerly owned by the president of Chrysler. That is pretty cool. And right here, of course, that is a 2023 Challenger Super Stock, my favorite Hellcat trim, both of these in Plum Crazy. Let's take a closer look. Old school and new school muscle, both of these in Plum Crazy, both cars in the same exact giveaway. Check out this 1970 Challenger 440 6-pack. As I mentioned, this used to belong to the president of Chrysler, and it is absolutely mint condition. Just look at that paint shine. Beautiful car. And then over here, the new school muscle, the 2023 Challenger Super Stock. As I mentioned, my favorite Hellcat trim with the Nittos on it. You can see the black interior. If you are a drag racer, you will absolutely love this trim. I love both the hood pins on these cars as well. Even though one is old school, one is new school. Plus, they give you $67,000 to pay the taxes if you win this drawing. Take a look at the inside of this old school 1970 Challenger. It is so cool to sit behind the wheel of such an epic muscle car. And for those of you wondering where that Fradsonic symbol comes from on the new car, just take a look at that. If you're interested in winning these two beautiful Challengers, you can go directly to Dream Giveaway's website and you can enter to win. I will pin a code in the link down below. It is actually my code. It'll take you directly to the website. It will already have my code applied, and that will get you 3 times the entries for one price. So take a look at these beautiful cars. You can read all about them on their website. Both of these absolutely beautiful old school and new school muscle. They give you $67,000 to pay the taxes, which is awesome. And if one of you guys wins using my code, I will actually film a dedicated video with you and your 2 brand new cars. So go out there and win a couple of beautiful Challengers. Before we address if I regret buying the Demon 170, I first want to talk a little bit about my issues with getting cars for this channel. And for those of you guys that haven't been following me for an extensive period of time and you're unaware, ever since I started my YouTube journey back, like 6 years ago, I have had so much trouble getting a really cool car for this channel. It started back with like the Dodge Demon in 2018. I tried to get that car for the channel. It was perfect for me. I've been drag racing for a really long time. I thought it was gonna blow my channel up, and for some, it did. And I worked on my credits. I was first on the list for 8 months. I mean, literally doing everything a guy can do to get ready for this car. And the day that the allocations were released, that you had to go in and sign your waiver, inspect your car, all that kind of stuff, the owner of the dealership showed up and said, you know what, I'm gonna buy all of these allocations for myself. Don't let the door hit you in the butt. Don't care what you have to say. It got pretty ugly. And unfortunately, I didn't get on anybody else's list because I was under the impression I had an agreement with these guys at MSRP. I even had a signed document that they said didn't mean anything. It was just a huge mess. So then I decided to go out and try and buy a Shelby GT500. I spec'd the car out, put a deposit down. I did everything a guy is supposed to do, got really excited about this car. And then the dealership simply refused to honor their agreement with me at MSRP. They wanted to charge me quite a bit over MSRP at the last minute. They had a bunch of hidden fees on there. told me he doesn't do that, so I lost out on that car. So then I decided, you know what? I think a C8 would be really great for my channel. And it probably would have been when it was brand new and first on the market. That was the idea. And then this really weird thing happened called COVID. Some of you guys may be aware of this, but it really screwed everything up. But if you guys managed to get their cars early on, I waited like a year and 3 months for my car to even get built. And it just made no sense because the guys that got their cars early on made 642 videos a day, every day, until the market was completely saturated, so to speak, the YouTube market. And it just doesn't make sense to buy a car when the content is that saturated. So I said, please move my deposit to a C8 Z06, which they did. We agreed at MSRP once again. This is a dealership that never charges over MSRP. Everything was good. Then we had all sorts of delays on the C8 Z06. Some of you guys may remember this. So I waited and I waited and I waited while I was still filming all this Hellcat content. And then finally they said, we're gonna release this thing. I went in and talked to the dealership about speccing it out, all that good stuff. And they said, oh, by the way, we've had a policy change. You're gonna have to pay $50,000 to our charity if you want to buy this car. Well, that was a joke, so I didn't want to do that. And next, I went ahead and tried to buy a TRX for the channel. I said, screw it, I'm just gonna go back to Dodge, buy a TRX. I spec'd the whole thing out, waited months for the thing to show up. They put it in the showroom. They called me and said, hey, can you come in tomorrow and, buy the car? I said, absolutely, I will be there. I worked on everything I was supposed to do as a buyer to make sure I was ready. And then come in the next day, the truck was gone. Apparently somebody showed up with $35,000 extra in their pocket and bought the truck out from under me. So that brings us to about 2 years ago when I went up to Dodge in Pontiac, Michigan for the Roadkill Nights event. That's when we saw them release the Hornet to us. That's when we saw the pre-production version of the Banshee, which most people hated. And we saw a bunch of other stuff from Dodge. Nothing anybody really got all that excited about, with the exception of what was under that tarp, where Tim Kuniskis told us they were making a record-breaking car. And I already had some idea what that car was gonna be. I already knew it was gonna be a drag race focused car. I had a pretty good sense of the horsepower. There were actually multiple things I had a pretty good sense of based on conversations that I had had leading up to that. And I knew I had to at least make a play for that car. Being somebody that's drag raced a long time, somebody that wanted to bolster the brand, I felt like that was absolutely the perfect car for me, especially since I missed out on the 2018 Demon. And I had lots of discussions behind the scenes, lots of planning, lots of relationship developing, and I was able to work with a local dealership here in Tampa, courtesy Dodge Jeep Chrysler Ram. Many of you guys saw the video, my delivery video. I mean, those guys followed every single thing they said they were going to do, right? They never went back on anything they said, and that actually was really refreshing after having missed out on car after car after car after car. Then I didn't think I was going to get it financed. And for those of you that haven't borrowed a lot of money before, this was the biggest car purchase I had ever made to this point, despite the fact my credit had come up, despite the fact I had what I consider to be a decent down payment. The bank still didn't want to lend me the money because of all the new restrictions and stuff that they have. If you've never made a loan that big, sometimes they will really give you a hard time. So I ran into that hurdle, but everything kind of worked out. And I was able to secure the Demon. So huge shout out to my dealership for not going back on their word, but I actually got the Demon. And I was so excited to finally get a flagship car for the channel. And then we get into racing the Demon. Now, one of the very first things that I wanted to do when I got my Demon 170 was figure out a way to race the Tesla Plaid. After all, that was the car that Dodge benchmarked when they designed the Demon 170. That is the car that they kind of went after in all their marketing campaign stuff. I mean, that was the car to go and race, and I wanted to be the first guy to bring it to you. So we have Drag Times Brooks. He also lives in Florida. He has a Tesla Plaid. He's a good driver. It only made sense for me to try and race him. And I actually had 3 separate testing sessions set up ahead of the race with him. I planned it out 6 weeks in advance. We already paid for the track rental, everything in advance, and I had lots of testing time before I wanted to actually go race him. And of course, being in Florida, it wanted to do all sorts of weird stuff weather-wise. It rained every single chance I had to go to the track. It was super, super annoying. So essentially, I was either gonna have to back out, which I did not want to do, especially after prepaying for the track, or just show up and race him. And I tried to race the Demon a lot like I would my 1,000+ horsepower Hellcat, which also would spin if the prep wasn't very good. And it turns out, yes, this was a private event, But there were lots of other cars there, a lot of exotic cars that were running street tires, basically pulling up the prep. I think this is a big part of the issue, guys. A lot of the street cars are coming through with street tires. All the prep is getting pulled up. There's no way I can launch the Demon. I'm gonna have to get some really fresh prep, and I'm gonna try it again. And guess what? Come to find out, if you're trying to launch a Demon 170 on anything but perfect prep, it spins. And it is really, really frustrating when it happens. If you go out to a normal test and tune night in a Demon 170, you have no prayer whatsoever of sticking. And it's forced a lot of Demon 170 owners, most guys are really aware of this issue, to go to like a 15-inch conversion. A lot of guys have done that because this car wants to spin so bad. And somebody might say, why in the world does the Demon 170 spin so bad? It's engineered to do all that. Well, keep in mind, this thing has torque reserve. So my 1,000+ horsepower Hellcat, which also is not impervious to spinning, it didn't have any torque reserve, and I always hit that thing on the foot brake. Well, the Demon can build up to 11 pounds of boost in the supercharger, and then dump all of that into the engine right off of the hit, making this thing super, super violent off the hit. The minute you go into torque reserve at about 1,400 RPM at sea level, that thing is just violent on the launch, which is how you can get a 4,300 pound car to go like 0 to 60 in like 1.6 seconds, have a 60 foot in the 1.2s. That is unbelievably impressive, even for like race cars, let alone a factory built car with a warranty. But it's really hard to get the Demon 170 to stick. I'm finding that out, and it just takes a lot of practice, a lot of playing with things. Yes, you can use the trans brake, but the car is actually faster on the foot brake. Just about anybody that's gone really fast in a 170 will tell you the foot brake is actually the better method, which is more what I'm used to. Essentially what I'm trying to say is the Demon 170 can be a bit demoralizing to get down the track with any consistency. It's just such a violent car, and unless the prep is absolutely perfect, you're out there on a night where they're not allowing street tires, they're dragging the track a lot, they're putting a lot of VHT down, you're probably going to spin. And just about every Demon 170 owner, if they're being truthful with you, will tell you the exact same thing. So a lot of people have commented, RacerX, you just seem really frustrated with the car. Well, that's because I've only had just a handful of clean runs in the car. Every other time I have spun, and I'm getting a little bit better with it. Believe it or not, I've actually had to go up in tire pressure at Bradenton because of how they do that prep, and I've had more success with it. And right about the time I got it figured out is when the car started acting weird, and I can no longer drive it. And obviously the engine is completely done. So that is a bit of a frustrating thing. And the other part of it that is a little bit frustrating for me is just the expectation of the car. And I get it to a degree because of how it was marketed, a lot like the 2018 Demon. But if you're not out there running 8.9, people just think you're slow and can't drive. And that's the truth of it. I mean, people have this crazy expectation of the Demon 170. It should beat the Lucid, it should beat the Plaid, it should beat everything out there, and you should never lose. And it doesn't matter what the DA is, it doesn't matter what the track prep is like, all that kind of stuff. That isn't reality, guys. That's just not the world we live in. And so I'm here to tell you, despite what some may show you on social media where they never spin, they never lose, all that kind of stuff, that's not reality. And if you're really seeing reality, you'll see a lot of Demon 170s out there struggling with the same things that I have struggled with. That's the reality of the car. Does that mean I don't love the car? No, but it's a different car. And when I raced my Hellcat, yes, I would still spin, but that car was very consistent. And yes, it did hook up easier. The Mustang, same thing, 1,000+ horsepower. That car never really spun off the line, but it would spin on the 1.2 hit once again. All of these cars, when you're making over 1,000 horsepower, if the track prep isn't pretty darn good, you're gonna spin. That's part of making big power, and it's even worse with the Demons. So there's that. Now, something else that's been happening ever since I put this information out on my channel about what's been happening with my car is people have been contacting me on Instagram, sending me messages, sending me texts, all sorts of stuff about what's actually going on with their Demon 170. I sort of assumed that my car was one of the only ones having problems. Come to find out, there's lots of guys having issues with their Demon 170. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword, but I have heard people tell me that their plugs aren't gapped right, and the cylinders are down and they've got to re-gap the plugs, get new plugs. That seems to be a really prevalent issue. One of the cars near me, the car had a diff that was all messed up and it was leaking. The diff had to be replaced. Another guy messaged me and talked about his engine basically grenaded itself, and it was a mechanical thing, but there was all sorts of metal in his engine and all that kind of stuff. He had to get that fixed. Another person's kind of having a very similar issue to mine. Lots of shavings in the oil, and there's been a whole bunch of it. One person actually had their drag race modes that were not acting right. Matter of fact, they never even came on once he hit the 500 miles like they were supposed to, so he had to go do a reflash and do some other stuff. It seems like there have been a litany of issues with this car. Now, kudos to Dodge for even trying to build a car like this, because nobody else is doing it. Nobody else is building an 8-second capable factory drag car like Dodge is doing, and it's like going out with a bang. I think there is some concern about quality control. Now, to Dodge's credit, as far as I know, they are taking care of just about everybody on this car. Matter of fact, I don't think I've heard of anybody whose warranty was not being honored as long as the car hadn't been tuned or they hadn't done anything super crazy to the car. Dodge is stepping up, whether they've been just driving down the road or at the track. Dodge is like, look, we put this warranty out there, we stand behind the product. We're gonna fix it if something happens. And those of you guys that are drag racers, you guys know, you understand that when you make big power and you race and you use the cars like they're intended, sometimes things break. I mean, a 4,300 pound car that's doing, 1.6, 0 to 60, sometimes things go awry. And so I'm a little bit frustrated at the situation. I mentioned this in my live the other night. But I'm not mad at Dodge. I'm actually really happy that Dodge even put this car out, and the fact that Dodge is taking care of my warranty. They knew I was racing, but they engineered the car to do exactly what I was doing with it. I was very transparent with them, and they are taking care of me. So I'm really pleased about that. Back to the original purpose for me making this video, answering the question, do I regret buying the Demon 170? Well, I think that's really going to depend on how the next few months play out, because yes, I love the car. Yes, it is unique. It's the baddest muscle car ever made. And if I get a brand new engine in the thing, and the thing is really happy, I take it to the drag strip, it's performing well. I think my car has always been down a little bit on power. Some guys were out there running 148 to 150 mile an hour. The fastest my car has ever gone is like 143 something. All right, guys, so that one was a little better, much better 60 foot, a 135 on the 60 foot time. The mile an hour was really low on that, 142.87 miles an hour. Something's off with that. And I realize there's a DA factor involved there as well. But if I'm getting that car back, it feels faster than ever. It's happy, it's healthy. I get new instructions on if there's different ways they want me to care for the car. I mean, I can do all that. They just need to tell me what to do. I can spread that word out to you guys as well. I followed all my instructions to a T. But so far, I really haven't enjoyed the car all that much. I just haven't had the opportunity to do it. So if I get it back, it's healthy, I'm racing, I'm beating people, I'm doing all the stuff I originally intended to do in this car, then the answer will absolutely be no. I don't regret buying the Demon 170. Now, if I get the engine back, it goes in the car, I go out to test the car again. Remember, they can't replicate drag racing conditions anywhere but the drag strip. And the only person that's going to take the car down through the strip is me. So there very well could be issues once we go to the drag strip and test it. Maybe the transmission isn't happy. There could be a number of other things that happen. And if it turns into a vicious cycle of me taking it out, something's not right, back to the dealership, sourcing it, trying to figure out what the heck, what's going wrong with it and all that. I mean, that could just turn into a nightmare and a vicious cycle. And then my answer will be completely different. It will be yes, buying the Demon 170 was a huge mistake, and it's not bringing me any enjoyment. And that is not what I want to happen. And to be clear, that is definitely not what Dodge wants either. Obviously, that's why they're taking care of me. I've been very, very pleased with my dealer, very, very pleased with Dodge and how much effort they're putting forward to try and get this thing fixed for me. So the ideal situation, we get it back, it's healthy, car's running great, and we get everything done in that car that we initially intended to do. So we'll just have to wait and hang on. As soon as I get more information about what really happened to my engine, I will be letting you guys know right away. Dodge is supposed to be telling me everything, being transparent with me, and I firmly believe that they will. So we'll all just kind of hang on for the time being and see what happens. So anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, RacerX.